Welcome back, fight fans, to another episode of Fight a Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, Max, and today we're talking about a twist in the promotion game that could reshape the upcoming heavyweight landscape. No fluff, just raw boxing truth. Big news out of the promotional world. Turki Alalshikh has decided he's no longer pursuing that potential bout between Dmitry Bivol and David Benavidez. That's right. One of the matchups we were all buzzing about has just been put on ice. And while we don't have a full play-by-play on his reasoning, insiders are whispering that strategic and financial factors are behind this pivot. Now, let's break it down. In boxing, promoters are the engine behind the biggest bouts. They're the ones who package the fights, secure the TV deals, and manage the overall spectacle. So when someone like Turki Alalshikh shifts his focus, it sends shockwaves through the sport. Bivol and Benavidez were set to collide in what could have been a blockbuster matchup, pitting two top fighters against each other in a clash that would have ruffled plenty of feathers and thrilled fans worldwide. But with Turki stepping back from this pairing, both fighters are left to explore other opponents. And while on the surface this might seem like a setback, it also opens the door for them to pursue even bigger and better opportunities. In boxing, nothing is set in stone. Every promotional decision sends ripples that can redefine a fighter's trajectory. Let's talk strategy. Promoters make decisions based on a mix of factors: financial projections, marketability, potential revenue streams, and sometimes even personal considerations. It's possible that Turki assessed the numbers and decided that the potential bout just wasn't going to deliver the kind of return he was looking for. Or perhaps there were other matchups on his radar that he felt had greater potential. The details remain under wraps, but it's clear that this is a strategic pivot rather than a slam-dunk rejection of either fighter's abilities. For Dmitry Bivol, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Bivol is known for his technical brilliance and unbeaten record, and is always looking for the right challenge to cement his legacy. With this matchup off the table, he's now free to consider other high-caliber opponents, someone who can really test his skills and elevate his status even further. And for David Benavidez, this is a similar opportunity. Benavidez has been on the rise, and while the chance to face a fighter of Bivol's stature was a tantalizing prospect, exploring alternative matchups might just lead him to an even more lucrative or challenging fight down the line. What does this mean for the boxing calendar? Well, in a sport where anticipation is built over months of years, a promotional pivot like this can lead to a significant reshuffling. Promoters, networks, and the fighters themselves are all part of an intricate dance. One change here can affect scheduling, and even the very narrative of the sport. And let's be honest, this decision is a reminder that behind every bout, there's a complex web of business decisions that can sometimes overshadow the raw talent and heart of the fighters. I'm not here to sugarcoat if this news is a letdown for fans who are eagerly awaiting a marquee clash. But it's also a wake-up call. Boxing isn't just about what happens in the ring, it's about the business that supports it. And sometimes that business makes calls that don't align with what we as fans hope for. It's frustrating, it's unpredictable, and it's exactly what makes the sport so dynamic. Now, let's get into the implications. With Turki pulling out, we're left with the fighters who have been on a collision course with greatness. Both Bivol and Benavidez have something to prove. They're not just stars, they're potential game changers. And while this particular bout might be off the table for now, I'm betting that the boxing world will see alternative matchups that could be just as electrifying, if not more so. It's a classic case of when one door closes, another one opens. Think about the long-term picture. Boxing history is filled with instances where a promotional pivot led to unexpected and ultimately greater matchups. The sport is always evolving, and every setback creates an opening for a new story. So while we might be disappointed by this turn of events, it's also an opportunity to look ahead. Who will Bivol face next? And what challenge will Benavidez take on to further his career? The possibilities are endless, and as always, only time will tell. I want to address the elephant in the room, the idea of financial influence in boxing. It's no secret that money talks in this sport. From TV deals to pay-per-view numbers, every decision is ultimately about the bottom line. And while we might grumble about it, it's a reality that every fighter, promoter, and fan must contend with. In this case, if strategic and financial factors drove Turki's decision, then that's just the nature of the beast. It doesn't mean the fighters are any less talented or deserving, it just means that the economics of boxing are constantly shifting, and those who adapt best are the ones who come out on top. So, where do we go from here? For one, the door is wide open for Bivol and Benavidez to reimagine their next steps. They could go head-to-head with other top contenders, or even set up a rematch if the stars align down the road. And for the rest of us, It's a reminder to keep our eyes on the ever-changing landscape of boxing promotion. The sport is in a constant state of flux, and every day brings new challenges, new opportunities, and new controversies. As I wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. In boxing, nothing is ever final. Every decision, every pivot, and every promotional shake-up is just part of the larger narrative. It's what makes this sport so unpredictable and so compelling. We may not always get the matchups we want, but that only fuels the passion and drive of the fighters, and it certainly keeps us fans on the edge of our seats. Thanks for tuning in to Fight a Boxing Podcast. I'm Max, and I'll be here, cutting through the noise and bringing you the unfiltered truth about all things boxing. Stay sharp, keep your guard up, and remember, sometimes the most interesting fights happen outside the ring. Until next time, fight fans.